Mr. Christie, you are a bully, and the days of you calling me a liar and destroying my life are over. The truth will be heard, and for the former governor, that truth will be unescapable, regardless of lucrative television deals or even future campaigns.
Welcome back. That was Bridget Kelly. She was the former Deputy Chief of Staff for now former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, not holding back in her assessment of her former boss. Kelly made those comments last week after a judge sentenced her to 13 months in prison for her role in the traffic jam lane closing New Jersey political scandal that became known in the press as Bridgegate. She is appealing her conviction to the U.S. Supreme Court. And Bridget Kelly joins me now. Ms. Kelly, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start with something you said in that statement after the hearing. You said essentially that Chris Christie was lying. What's he lying about?
His time frame and knowing about the traffic study. He was told about it by me in August of 2013. And then 7 people under oath during the trial testified to his knowledge prior to. So there's a lot of things that he's, had a very forgetful memory about.
Why couldn't if you informed him in August, how did that not, what prevented that from getting established as fact in your case and in Bill Baroni's case?
Well, I testified to the same in court, as did Mr. Baroni, and as did others, and it just, unfortunately, didn't resonate, I guess. But it was the truth. It was it's how it happened, and we laid out a time frame and a timeline, and that was how it went. And unfortunately, the 7 people that even testified stating that the governor had knowledge of the traffic study, all are people who have done very well by the governor after their testimony.
I want to put Governor Christie put out a statement again after your comments, and here's what he said. It's worded very interestingly. As I've said before, I had no knowledge of this scheme prior to or during these lane realignments and had no role in authorizing them. No credible evidence was ever presented to contradict that fact. Anything said to the contrary is simply untrue. It's that second to last statement I find intriguing. If everything he's saying is true, why include a sentence that says no credible evidence was ever presented to contradict that fact? There was some evidence that never did get presented, and I believe it's Governor Christie's cell phone, correct?
Correct, and that is somewhere. They apparently couldn't find it, and then they found it, and it's remaining in a desk drawer somewhere. Not sure where.
And the government has never been able to go into it and find out what text messages were in there?
To my knowledge, no.
Why is it if what you did, if the governor had said, yes, I ordered this, would you and Mr. Baroni have committed a crime?
Well, I didn't, when I was told that the Port Authority was thinking about doing this and was going to be doing this traffic study, it never dawned on me that it could be a crime. Why would they do that? So when I told the governor that the Port Authority was doing that, was planning to do this traffic study, but there was going to be some residual effects with that, traffic problems being one of them. Mm-hmm. It seemed like a normal action for the Port Authority to study this issue. So for me, it was one of many things that I, ran either by the governor or by his chief of staff, Kevin O'Dowd. And so once I ran it by them and they didn't seem to have a problem, I kind of thought it was a done issue. And here we are, and 5.5 years later, and I'm looking at time in prison.
And why are you going to prison? Why is Bill Baroni in prison?
We shouldn't be. Other people should be in more trouble than we are, or in trouble. We were convicted of 9 crimes to begin with, and 7 of which remain. 2 were thrown out by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And we are still appealing to the United States Supreme Court and hope to hear on that in June.
What do you believe you did wrong? In hindsight now, let's forget all this. Looking back, what did you do wrong?
The easy answer is that I should have not written emails and text messages in haste, because when, interpreted by others, this is where I am. But I also
let me stop you there. I was just going to say, when you see your text messages that say, I feel badly about the kids, I guess.
Chuck, I am happy to answer this. It is all banter with David. There was more to this prior to these text messages. The time for traffic problems, which I have, owned from day one, was reiterating or giving David back words that he used. It was a quick way to tell him that I had spoken to those that I had to in Trenton. And if I could rewrite it and write time for a traffic study in Fort Lee, I would like to. But what would I do differently? I wouldn't trust or stay in a situation that was as unhealthy as my time, and I loved my career, but it was a very unhealthy situation. I worked for a bully, and when you're a single mom with 4 kids, you're not looking to rock any boats. I did love my career, but looking back now, I trusted way too many people.
You think Governor Christie was ethical? Did you believe he was ethical and acted ethically before this incident?
I wasn't, my job I might have had a big title, but I really didn't have my portfolio wasn't as large as others. I think that there was probably some questionable things that went on. The manner in which he treated me, I have 2 incidents that I've talked about in court and I've talked about anywhere else. He threw a water bottle at me. I mean, I'm a staff member because he didn't want to be a game show host. And I set up a meeting that he told me to set up, and he didn't like the way that I had, planned for it to go. It was immediately after the fires in Seaside Heights. And then he had told me to set up meetings with the mayor of Jersey City, Steve Fulop, right after he was elected. And then he came in and, I was told by his chief of staff to cancel these meetings. And he came into my office the next day and screamed at me that nobody's entitled to curse word meeting. And, I just don't think that that's a healthy environment. At the time, you're in it, you have this job, you love what you do. They're amenable to the fact that I had 4 children and I commuted 2 hours every day, each way. But looking back, I trusted and believed in too many people, and it didn't,
Why do you think he decided it was okay for you and Baroni to be the fall people?
I mean, for me, it was because I was the lowest hanging fruit. He had, enough information that he could turn. He knew how the system worked. And, unfortunately, what happened with me was that I knew I told him about this, and then all of a sudden, everybody started saying they didn't know anything about it. And I was left on an island by myself. And, I think had he just said, sure, I knew about the traffic study, this would have all played out much differently. If there was anything that the Port Authority or scores that had to be settled, they were above my head and I wasn't aware of them.
Did you know that this traffic study was about punishing the mayor of Fort Lee?
I did not. We maintained, we meaning the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, maintained a good relationship with the mayor of Fort Lee. So that would be something I was not aware of.
There's a lot of people working in government today that are political appointees that never get elected, and they devote themselves to the elected official. What advice would you have for people that work in government as political officials but work in government?
I love that question, and I think that you have to be just wary. And if something isn't right or doesn't look right, you need to ask more questions, and you can't be afraid to ask more questions. I think the world is changing, not because of Bridgegate, but I think that the world in which we all work and where people work professionally, whatever the business is, especially politics, people are starting to ask more questions, and I think that's important. I didn't ask enough.
Bridget Kelly, I know you've got a long way to go. I know this has been pretty tough on your kids.
Yeah.
Good luck, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.